Are you going to do the... Try.
Well, I think they should be treated properly, anyway, number one. And like you get very attached to a greyhound, and next thing you find out he's gone out to Asia or somewhere and get mistreated. Then the dog's fault if he's no good. We can't keep bad dogs, but at the same time, if they're not good enough, they should be put down humanely, you know. Put them down humanely. Like put down the ground is only 2 seconds job. Down to the base. You don't even know where he is.
Towed into Corrie Park and Shelburne Park. There is 1 minute to bet. Sierra, 6 still in the frame, 1 the leader, Ogari at the final bend. Lindy in hand here, a lot of challenges going to challenge.
These two dogs are 12 months old, and they're 2 bitches, and they're for the coursing season. Yep.
It's so calm here on the Kildare fields. A shock to know how quickly time steals. I dreamed I stopped the sunrise that day. Still the breeze that carried you away. This loss is everywhere. I can touch and feel your light there. By the power of my desire, be warned and made secure. Be warned and made secure. Sanctuary.
In the countryside, when we would hear the pigs being killed in an adjoining farm, even as a young child I would run and hide. I seemed to have some instinct that told me this just wasn't right, you know. I always had a passion for animals. When I came to live in Limerick, I was in my early 30s, 40 years ago now, and the first thing I saw was the dogs on the street. Lying in the doorways of the shop units, and nobody seemed to be taking any notice really or looking after them. So then I began to bring them home, and met some other people who became my lifelong friends on the street that all also went in feeding animals. So we started up the animal welfare circle, we called it then, and that would be 40 years ago now. And the circle just grew and people came to help us. And then in 1988 we formed a limited company, non-for-profit, and then that was the first time we took the name Limerick Animal Welfare.
She's gorgeous.
We had a case recently of a dog that came in very badly abused, very cruelty case. Had both hips fractured, had its ears cut off.
Oh, it's George! Yeah, isn't he gorgeous? Yeah, he's great now. He's really doing
so well. You are.
So George was found in an inner city housing estate in Limerick City. He was thrown in over a wall and he was found, brought straight to the vets for pain relief because he was in a lot of pain at that stage. He had 2 broken hips. He was burnt with cigarettes all over his tummy and all over his face. His tops of his 2 ears were cut off, probably with a scissors. Also, he had his tail chopped off and his whiskers chopped off.
It's big sadness for us that we've made very little changes in the situation with greyhounds in Ireland. They're getting homes in Europe, they're getting homes everywhere, but they're not getting homes in Ireland. So that's a big challenge for us. We leave the music on all night for them, you know. The greyhounds, unfortunately, are different, and because so many greyhounds are being bred every year, and we have a huge number of greyhounds, much more than we do have many other animals. And when you think of 20,000 new greyhounds are bred and registered every year, and only 10,000 of those are lucky to get places in the UK, or some of them maybe 5,000 racing in Ireland, and the remaining 10,000 are just not wanted. The Limerick track here, where we see a huge downturn in the industry, is now only open 2 nights every week. They race Friday and Saturday night, all other evenings of the week. This huge building is basically closed and running at an enormous loss. 22 million was invested in the track, and it's hugely in debt now at the moment, and there doesn't seem to be any sign of the business picking up or any improvement in the situation.
An investigation is underway after 6 greyhounds were found dead at a disused quarry in Limerick. It's believed the dogs had been shot. The Irish Greyhound Board, Bord na Gun, says it's working with Gardaí to bring the offenders to justice. Viewers may find some of the pictures in this report distressing.
The grim discovery was made in a remote area outside the village of Ballyagran in West Limerick. Behind these padlock gates lay the dumped carcasses of 6 greyhounds. The clean-up operation at the disused quarry was underway today after the animals were removed last night.
There was some of different stages of decomposition. There was 2 that were shot recently. You could see the pools of blood on the floor where they had obviously been shot. There was an obvious bullet wound to one of the dogs that was only recently shot.
Gardaí at Newcastle West are investigating the incident and are being assisted by Bord na Gun, who say they have identified 2 owners through numbers tattooed on the ears of the dogs.
It's absolutely disgusting. Under the terms of the Welfare of Greyhounds Bill 2012, Penalties and proceedings would involve substantial financial fines and or possible jail term up to 6 months.
On the morning that we arrived early, finally, with John to go down into the quarry and take the photos, as I was just amazed at the change in the 5 days and the actual decomposing bodies were in the most awful state. And as you approached the headland, all you could really hear were the maggots actually chewing up what was remained of the bodies. I know that happens, but I had never actually realised that it was so horrific, and I just say the smell, the stench, and the awful sadness to know that there were so many greyhounds down there and had probably been thrown in there over several years, because that was the information we had locally. But I subsequently heard that there could be hundreds of dogs down there, remains, and that this had been going on for years, and everybody knew who the fellow was, but nobody would give his name. Nobody would sign a declaration and say who the man was. So even though it was well known, he was never prosecuted. He's probably still shooting dogs down there in a different area.
Penalties and proceedings would involve substantial financial fines and or possible jail term up to 6 months.
Well, I wonder why this world won't let me go. I wonder why my life has been so slow. I dreamed a dream that one day I would go to the land of the magpie and the crow. I'll sail when the wind it will blow. I'll sail when the storm it is low. I'll go to the land that I know. I'll be happy with the magpie and the crow. I'll go where the sun always shines. I'll go where the stars are always bright. I'll go by the light of the moon to a land that no human can roam.
He's getting very frosty around the eyebrows and getting very distinguished. So he'll be celebrating his 9th birthday, which is better than so many thousands of greyhounds who never get past year 1 if they won't chase anything. We never get past year 2 if they fall and injure themselves. We never get past year 4 if they're not good enough to breed from, when they get too slow. So it's wonderful to have people say, oh my gosh, he's very old. And I go, yes, he is. He's one of the lucky ones. I mean, if you try to understand about Ireland, the animal welfare culture in here it's very, very backward. We were working until recently on laws that were made in the early 1900s under British rule, and they had not been revised since the 1900s. So we've just recently had those upgraded, and while you can legislate for something, it takes quite some time after that before you start to get a change in people's hearts before those laws and the ethics behind them are absorbed into the culture. There's a lot of ignorance surrounding dogs in Ireland for all the fact that people breed them and profess to know about them. And a lot of it's to do with their behaviour. They think that they're vicious, they're aggressive, and you wouldn't put that into your home with your children. And nothing's farther from the truth. They really don't know and understand the animals. And I think that's possibly where it comes from. And you can talk to people and they'll still say, oh no, they're vicious and aggressive, they're horrible dogs, and they won't have them near their home. And they're standing looking at a dog that's been quite calm, quite gentle, is allowing children to come up and stroke it, and they'll still tell you they're vicious and aggressive. So there's still that misconception that's been handed down, and they take this as an absolute immutable fact, and they will go on doing this. It's also possibly a cheaper option for them to get rid of the dog rather than hold on to it for another little while to see if they can find it a home, to hand it into a rescue group. If they have to hang on to it in the kennels, they have to feed it. And for them, it's just a matter of convenience. They see them as livestock, not as companion animals, not as dogs, not as man's best friend. They're just a means for making money. And in fact, our own Department of Agriculture still has that little leaflet that promotes greyhounds as small livestock and a way of making some income for yourself for very little outlay. Doesn't take much to knock up a few kennels, does it? We had a very stormy winter in 2010. The winds were very, very high everywhere. But she'd had a phone call from a lady who was taking a walk on Waterville Beach in County Kerry. And she found a dead greyhound washed up on the beach with a concrete block tied on its neck. We've had no follow-up on it. We don't know who owned the dog, what action was taken against the owner. And that's the problem. The IGB need to take action against these owners and make it clear that they have taken action against these owners. And if there are repeat offences from these owners, they should be barred from owning greyhounds. A concrete block. And throw it into the sea.
You should never have a greyhound again. No ifs, ands or buts about it. Should never have a greyhound again. And I have no doubt about my colleague's opinion on that, because that is what has been said time and time again. He should not have a greyhound ever again. My name is Bridget Frank. I'm the chairperson of the Federation, Irish Greyhound Owners and Breeders Federation. Also the chairperson of the Western GOBA. I am involved in racing greyhounds. I'm involved in breeding and rearing greyhounds. I love every aspect of it, but possibly where I am most passionate at this particular point in my life is the rehoming of greyhounds. These beautiful animals, once they have their job done, it is nice to see that they get a beautiful home on somebody's couch or somebody's chair. You're the best girl. You're waiting for a gallop, aren't you? You want to go for a run. Yes, you do. You do. Don't you? You do. The majority of greyhound people, and I know so many greyhound people, I would say 90% of our greyhound people are caring individuals and care desperately about their dogs. I've seen grown men and older men with tears in their eyes when they're parting with their dogs. So that isn't anything new. As to how many they can really adopt, and we know ourselves that not every greyhound can be adopted because there are so many dogs, not just so many greyhounds, but there are so many dogs. We can't expect people abroad to take out greyhounds on a constant basis. We need to be able to rehome our own greyhounds. This was me winning the Oaks with a little bitch called Fortuna, and my delight when my red flag came up. I just could not be contained. It was to beat the fella next door. That's all that mattered. As long as you bet the fella next door, it was the same as winning the stake. So it was It's about competition. It's about competition. And when I was trying to say the other day about the adrenaline rush you get when you're winning, and you're standing waiting even in the track, let's say even in the track, you're on the track and you've taken your dog out, he's in traps, and you're saying, and people are saying, well, Bridget, what do you think tonight? I don't know. It depends on whether he breaks or not. Will you get out, or will you do this, will that? And the next thing you see him say, come on, and you're roaring and screaming for your own dog, and the words that come out of your mouth sometimes, people would not believe it, you know. But people have different passions. Passion about one particular sport or another. But you cannot tell me that I cannot be passionate about my sport.
You said a good spot. Oh, don't you dare. Don't you dare. You said a good spot. You said a good spot. Oh, that's a good spot. That's a good spot. Good girl. To be so affectionate, to be so calm, you know, to be so loving. It really just shows what amazing animals they can be. So for the last 20 years, and this is confirmed with the government and with the ISPCA and with the county council, that they've been putting every dog down there in a process called ICI, which is called intercardiac injection. Now, intercardiac injection is usually used, and it's only recommended to be used on a heavily anaesthetised animal. So an animal who's already under heavily anaesthetic, not even sedation. It says in the Irish veterinary journals, heavily anaesthetic. In the pound in Clare for the last 20 years, they've been routinely putting down dogs without any anaesthetic whatsoever directly into the heart.
Being put down during the week, greyhound dog. Obviously he was used for racing and the owner didn't want it anymore, so unfortunately he had to be put down. Basically, when they put down the dog, they injected it into the heart, and obviously the vet, who was an older vet that was there, he obviously missed the heart, so the dog was like going into seizures and everything. He was running around yelping. He's very distressed. There's froth coming out of his mouth, and I didn't like it. It was sorry. I sat there with him until he died. I've never seen anything like it before. It was the most terrific thing I've ever seen in my life. No dog should have to go through that.
Often criticism for it as if we were gaining something out of it. It's not,
Oh, you're taking the heat for it.
Yeah, we're taking the heat for it. And all we're doing is, like, it was our job. The Control of Dogs Act states you're obliged to take a stray dog or an unwanted dog. Currently now, there's a new format in here. In and around last June, an organisation came on board and they're trying to rehome dogs. We didn't have that outlet before. We'd only have an outlet for 4 or 5 greyhounds in the year. Now we've got this organisation who can take they took approximately 18 to 20 last year from us. Now when people come here with a greyhound and they surrender the dog and they're looking for the dog to be put to sleep, basically, we won't do that for them unless there's welfare issues with the dog or the dog is dangerous. they can go to their own vet or they can go back to the greyhound board and they can discuss it themselves, but we won't be taking the dog unless they surrender the dog to us, and then the dog becomes the property of Clare County Council, and we can then rehome that dog to any organisation or any person that we feel it would suit the dog. So our records in putting down greyhounds has gone way down. Putting down is actually putting them to sleep. Already this year now, from the start of 2015, we've only had 3 greyhounds into the pound.
In Ireland, I find when I talk to people about greyhounds, they go, "Oh yeah, I had a great night at the tracks." And I try and plant the seed of doubt in there about, supporting an industry that sees these beautiful, docile, peaceful animals, so loving, instead of seeing them as something for sport and entertainment, but to see them as pets. And and to see them as a dog that wants to be petted, the ball thrown, go for walks, give you the paw. Some of them do, and some of them have this disbelief. And even when I go walking them, I meet men and they go, "Would you put a few pounds on them now?" And I'm like, "These are rescued," and they don't get that. Well, why would you rescue them? They're meant for the track. And sometimes you get people, they don't want anything to do with them. They don't want to touch them. They think they're vicious. So it's about breaking down their preconceptions. And, you can't remove somebody's idea of something unless you can replace it with something else. So that's what I try to do. I have to get a t-shirt that says Rescue Walker because they think I've got lots of greyhounds. I'm racing them and making money. So yeah, I love them though. I love them because they just can teach you so much about forgiveness and living again and letting go of the past. And I suppose as a therapist and counsellor, I try and bring what they've shown me about living into my work with people, and it works. So yeah, that's me and greyhounds.
Claire Schofield. Yeah.
We get out there because I'm the person who knows where we're going. Hello?
I'm Patricia Roy from Flying Irish Greyhounds, and this is Maggie. Maggie is from the Clare Greyhound Project. Clare Greyhound Project is a group that rehomes greyhounds out of the Clare Pound. And Flying Irish Greyhounds, we transport the greyhounds to the US and Canada where they have homes waiting for them. So we're here today with the GRAI Walk, Greyhound Rescue Association Ireland, to promote awareness of greyhounds as pets in Ireland. I think that people just aren't aware of how good they are as pets. They think of them as racing dogs. We just haven't been exposed to them as pets. So hopefully walks like this will educate people. Many of the racing owners take really good care of their dogs, which is very sad because they're very, very healthy dogs that are being put down for lack of homes. So 75 to 100 were homed in Ireland last year, which is a big jump from when I started getting my greyhounds as pets here about 10 years ago. So it is improving, but 100 greyhounds compared to thousands that are needing homes is a small percentage. So.
But I suppose the problem is, from a trainer's or breeder's point of view, in the kennel is what happens when they finish racing. Where do they go? And the schemes and like the sanctuary over in Kilfinnan and our other rehoming schemes, that there is somewhere for the dogs to go. And if owners, if they knew that, and it's a case of that there should be a place for all these dogs to go. And if we get to there, everybody. But I don't think there's. It's just that there's an absence.
I don't think they know. And in lots of cases, people don't actually know that the schemes are there. They just assume that there is nothing else after they finish racing.
Yeah, I think if we see more greyhounds in Ireland as pets, and we see them, people see them on the street, or people walking them, or their neighbour has one as a retired dog, because they are, they are fantastic pets. They are very, very good pets now, and real loyal companions, real sweet nature. It's funny that there's a lot of rehoming in countries where there's no racing, because they seem to have a different perspective on them, because they see them, like Italy, there's loads of greyhounds now. Whereas here, and I suppose, as I said about George, if you looked at him racing, you'd think he was fierce. But if you saw him there, I saw him lying on the couch with his 4 legs in the air, you'd say, there's nothing fierce about him.
No.
Come on, Georgie. Come on, should be on the come on.
On the Raglan road of an autumn day, I saw her first and knew that her dark hair would weave a snare that I might one day rule. I saw the danger and I passed along the enchanted way, and I said, let grief be a fallen leaf at the dawning of the day. On a quiet street in November, we stood lightly along the ledge of a deep ravine where can be seen the word of passion blaze.
Morning.